What's up, guys? Well, welcome to today's live training. Today is all about talking about a lean bulk. Okay. Now, some of you have heard of this, some of you have not. So, we're going to talk about what a lean bulk actually is in comparison to, we'll call it a regular bulk. We're going to talk about which one is better. We're going to go look at that. And then the very end of this, we're actually going to go into the details of how to actually create a program that is designed for a lean bulk. Okay. And as a bonus, I have a nice little sweet little bonus at the end. As a bonus, we're going to talk about how you should analyze the numbers, and if the numbers do this or do that, this is what it means. Okay, so I'm super excited about today's session. It is going to be one of the nerdiest sessions that we've done so far, because there are a lot of things that you have to know in order to truly create an effective lean bulk program. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into the session. So first, before we get into talking about what a lean bulk is, let's just say there's two different types of bulking that you can do. Okay, so lean bulk is kind of a new term that's probably has kind of been hot for the last 3 to 5 years. Okay, and we'll talk about the definition. And there's also what's called a regular bulk. Okay, and a regular bulk is kind of what you've seen people do in the past. Okay, bodybuilders made it very famous. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about what those two things are. So let's first talk about a regular bulk, because that's where pretty much everything started. So a regular bulk is essentially what bodybuilders made popular, right? So when you're not in competition season and you are, we'll call it in the off season, then your focus is purely about trying to gain as much muscle as you possibly can by all means necessary. And so you'll see a lot of people that are going through a regular bulk, they will eat a ton of food. They eat sometimes they're eating burgers, they're eating fries, they're eating pizza, because all they care about is eating in a caloric surplus, okay? Eating a lot of calories, okay? So in the past, you saw a lot of people doing these, what they called regular bulks, where they would, in the off season, they would get really, really fat, right? Or during the winter months, they would get really, really fat. Now, they would gain muscle, but they'd also gain a ton of fat. Okay. And so that was made really popular by bodybuilders. And then, the everyday person started to adopt it, and they started to do it. So during the summer months, they would get lean. And then during the winter months, they would go through bulking season, right? And again, a regular bulk in the terms of it is just, you can just eat whatever you want, as much as you want, as long as you are gaining muscle. If you gain extra fat, which is usually what happens when you follow that type of thing, it's all okay, because it's all in the name of trying to gain muscle. Okay, so that is a regular bulk. Okay, now a lean bulk is a little bit different of a definition. Okay, this is essentially where you are trying to add a lot of muscle. Okay, but you also are trying to stay lean. So one of the problems that people had when they went through a regular bulk is they would go through this huge process of gaining muscle, but also gaining fat. And then what would happen is, when they would start to get lean for a show, because they tried to get lean so fast, they would end up eating away at the muscle that they worked so hard to build in the off season. Okay. Or the fat loss process was very, very, very long, because they gained so much fat in the off season. So when they were trying to get lean, they actually had to spend 9 months to a year trying to lose all that fat in a healthy way. Okay. And so the problems were, people were either losing muscle, or B, they were taking too long to really lose the fat that they gained during the off season. Okay, so this new thing, this new theory, or this new way of doing stuff came out, called a lean bulk. Okay, and a lean bulk, again, is when you are trying to stay about the same body fat. Okay, but you're trying to get your muscle mass to go up all the time. Okay. And so the idea behind this is, hey, look, I want to stay lean and I want to gain muscle. So I want to have the best of both worlds. I want to stay lean and I want to gain muscle. Okay. Now, don't get this confused with recomp. Okay. Now that might be a session for a whole nother day, but recomp is basically, let's say that you are 130 pounds or whatever. Let's say you're female, you're 130 pounds. Okay. You don't necessarily want to lose weight, but you want to change your body composition. Okay. So it just means that you want to lower your body fat and you want to increase muscle. So you want to lose 10 pounds of fat and then you want to increase 10 pounds of muscle. So you can change your body fat and lower your body fat, but you also want to increase your muscle. Okay. That's a recomp. Okay. If you're 180 pounds and you're a man and you're trying to, lose 20 pounds of fat and gain 20 pounds of muscle and stay relatively about 180 pounds, that's called recomp. Okay. This is not the same thing as recomp. Okay. Recomp is your goal is to lose body fat. Your primary goal is to lose body fat. Like you need to get it down. Whereas a lean bulk, you're just trying to stay about the same level of body fat, but you're trying to get that muscle mass to go up. Okay. So if you're not comfortable with where your body fat is right now, then you probably don't need to be going through a lean bulk. You probably either need to get down to a body fat where you're comfortable at, or just accept that, hey, I'm going to focus on building muscle, but keeping my same fat that I have right now. Okay. But that's not technically a lean bulk. Okay. So I hope that didn't confuse you a little bit, but I want to make sure that you're not confused, that you know the difference between a lean bulk and a recomp. Okay. Again, lean bulk is you're comfortable with where your body fat is, and all you're trying to do is focus on maintaining that and trying to increase your muscle, where a recomp is you're essentially trying to do both. Okay. You're not comfortable with where your body fat is. You want your body fat to go down and you want to increase muscle again, or as well. And you want to stay about the same weight. Okay. So don't get that confused. Okay. It's super important that you understand that. Okay. Now, the cool thing about lean bulk is when you go through this process, you are going to, stay relatively lean in theory. Okay. You're going to stay relatively lean, and you will slowly build muscle. Okay. Now, the tough part of a lean bulk is the fact that you will slowly build muscle, and it takes a really, really long time. Okay. So the question I get all the time is, which is better for gaining muscle? Is it better to go through a regular bulk, or is it better to go through a lean bulk? Okay. And without being a smartass, the real answer is, the smartass answer is, the one that you can stick to the longest. That's the one that's going to build muscle. Okay. But let's say you're going to be consistent. Okay. And everything's going to work. Okay. You will actually gain muscle faster on a regular bulk, because you are 100% guaranteed to be eating a surplus of calories every single day, because you don't really care about going over your maintenance level or increasing your body fat. You are just willing to eat as much as you need to eat in order to gain muscle. So there is a guarantee that you're probably going to be in a caloric surplus every single day, which will help you build muscle way faster. Okay. Now, the downside to that is, the next question is, well, which one is actually easier psychologically? Okay. And it just depends on the kind of person that you are. Okay. If you're absolutely nervous, like let's just say that you went through a body transformation process and you lost a ton of fat, and you're so nervous about gaining fat again, right? You don't want to gain it back, right? Then you probably don't want to go through a regular bulk, because purposely putting on fat again is scary, right? Like you're like, there's no way. Like I worked so hard to get it off. Why am I going to put it back on? So psychologically, a lean bulk is probably better for you. Okay. However, if you have been thin your entire life, you have not been able to gain muscle, you've tried everything and nothing works and blah, 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 blah. Okay. It might be better for you psychologically to do a regular bulk. Okay. So you really got to assess of where you are, because it's not a one size fits all type of solution. Okay. I will tell you that, I've gone through both of those, right? Where I've gone through the regular bulk. In fact, the very, very, very first bodybuilding show that I ever did. Okay. I said, I'm going to go through a regular bulk, and I'm going to gain as much weight as I possibly can. Now, I didn't do it where I was eating burgers and fries, but I made it okay to eat a lot more. Okay. And I went through that. The second time that I did a show, I actually did it a lot higher and ate a lot more food. Okay. And I will tell you that, yes, did I gain muscle? Yes, I did. Were my energy levels high throughout my training? Yes. Did I have almost good days all the time because I never was struggling with being hungry? Absolutely. The problem was is I didn't really like walking around at 15% body fat. I didn't like that at all. I would much rather have walked around at 12% or even 11% body fat and not been as big muscularly. Okay. So then after I did those two things and realized that I don't really like being at 15% body fat, I said, okay, let me go ahead and do, now this is way before the word lean bulk came out. I said, okay, well, let me go ahead and go through just a process where I'm not gaining as much fat and trying to just maintain my fat and slowly increase my muscle, essentially what a lean bulk is. But again, that term was not out then. Okay. And I actually realized that I enjoyed that much better. Even if my muscle gains were extremely slow, I actually enjoyed that much better because I could walk around lean. I could walk around relatively comfortable. Again, my energy levels were still high. Yeah, I wasn't gaining as much muscle at a faster rate, but I just really I cared more about the now. I cared more about just feeling good every single day and not feeling like I had to explain myself to somebody I hadn't seen in 6 months of why I've gained 30 pounds. Okay. Like it just was way more comfortable in life to do a lean bulk versus the regular bulk. So I've tried both. And personally, I like the lean bulk way better than the regular bulk. Okay. But not everybody is different. So you're really going to have to find which one works for you. Okay. All right, cool. So now that we've talked about what a lean bulk is, we talked about what a regular bulk is, and hopefully you understand the definition and which one's kind of easier or not so easy. Okay. Now let's talk about how we're actually going to create a lean bulk program. Okay. Now, before we get going, I have 12 things that you must know before you create a lean bulk program. Okay. Now, if you don't know all 12 of these things, you are going to start slowly having a less effective program. Okay. Now, I know I can nerd out on you guys, which is why I said this is going to be a nerdy session. So some of this stuff, it may go over your head. Okay. But I promise you, you need to know these things before you truly create a lean bulk program. This is why it's so hard. It is so hard to truly create a lean bulk program for most people because they don't have the knowledge on all of this stuff. Okay. So I'm going to go through all 12 of these things really quick because I don't want this session to be 4 hours long. Okay. So number one, you need to know that in order to build muscle, that you need to be in a caloric surplus. Okay. That's easy. Okay. So if everybody right now were to go say, and this is just generally speaking, okay, don't do this, but you can do it just for the sake of the example. But if everybody right now were to go and say, let me Google calorie calculator. Okay. And you were to calculate how many calories you need in order to maintain your weight. Okay. Everybody can do that. It literally takes you 2 minutes to do it. Okay. So you can Google that and figure it out. Okay. Let's just say it's 2,000. Okay. A caloric surplus means that you're eating over 2,000 calories. So you have to know that in order for you to gain muscle, in theory, okay, now I'm not talking about if you're a beginner. If you're a beginner, you can literally do whatever you want and you'll gain muscle. Okay, they're called newbie gains. Okay, I'm talking for your advanced person, somebody who's been consistent for about 3 or 4 months at least. Okay. If that's you, then you need to be eating in a caloric surplus in order to gain muscle. So that's number one, you need to know. Okay. Number two, you need to make sure that you're eating enough protein to encourage muscle growth. Okay. There are a lot of different ways that you can do that. There's a lot of different schools of thought, a lot of different studies out there that show different things. Okay. But generally speaking, okay, it's not 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight because that doesn't make a lot of sense for somebody who's 210% body fat or somebody who's 230% body fat. Okay. Obviously the person who is at 10% body fat is going to require a much higher amount of protein because they're going to have a lot more muscle than somebody who's 200 pounds, 30% body fat. They're not going to have as much muscle. So you need to make sure that you have enough muscle, or enough protein to encourage muscle growth. Okay. Now, there are some studies out there that say 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. Okay. That would actually be a more strategic way and a more custom way to doing it for you. Okay. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. Now, some people just want to go based on a macro split and say, I want 40% of my calories coming from protein. That's another way that you can do it as well. at the end of the day, no matter which formula you use, it is all estimations, okay? 100% estimations. So don't get so caught up in trying to figure out what is the best way to just find one, okay? Because it's the power isn't where you start. The power is really how you adjust it. And we're going to talk about that later, okay? So make sure you have enough protein to encourage muscle growth, okay? One of the very interesting theories that I've seen people do and people use is say, okay, let's say that you're 5'5", and let's say you're female, 5'5", you're 30% body fat, and your goal, okay, and let's say you're 30% body fat, you are 150 pounds, okay, and let's say that your goal is to be 140 pounds, but you want to be at 15% body fat. Okay, so do your calculations. How many pounds of lean body mass and fat mass do you have at 30% body fat? And then how many pounds of fat mass and lean body mass would you have when you are 140 pounds at 15% body fat? Okay, and then you create your program based on you being at 15% body fat. So you actually you create your entire program based on the person that you want to become, and that's how you build your program. Okay. And I've actually tested that on some of my clients, and I've been doing that for 5 to 10 years. And it's actually really, really, really interesting that works. Okay. So that's another interesting way of doing it. Did I just let out my secret sauce? I may have. Anyhow, so you got that. Okay. Now, obviously you must know your weight. You must know your body fat. You must know your lean body mass. You must know your fat mass. Okay. Now, I'm telling you, you must know all of these things, because if you don't know them, you have no way of tracking if you are on the right track or not. Okay, so don't be so don't be so excited about getting started that you're just going to go start. No, you got to make sure that the setup is right. Okay, if you don't have all these initial numbers, you don't know if you're gaining. Okay, you can feel all day long, but you don't really know if you're gaining or if you're losing muscle and building fat, or gaining fat, or is vice versa. Are you actually doing what you're supposed to be doing? Building muscle and losing fat. Okay, so you have to know these numbers if you want to create your program. So right now we're still just talking about setting up your program. Okay, we haven't even talked about how to actually do it. Okay, so weight, body fat, lean body mass, and fat mass. Okay, if you don't know how to create or how to calculate those numbers, just drop a comment. Say, teach me how to calculate my numbers. Okay, it's really simple. I can teach you how to do it. Just comment, teach me how to calculate my numbers, and I will comment to you, or comment on your or reply to your comment once this session is done. Okay, all right, cool. So you must know all that. Okay. Now we're going to start getting a little bit more nerdy, okay? You must know your total daily energy expenditure, okay? It's called your TDEE, okay? Essentially, you need to know how many calories your body is burning every single day with the amount of physical activity that you're doing, okay? Again, that's going to be your maintenance number. When you catch your TDEE, how many calories your body's burning every single day with your normal physical activity, okay? When you calculate that, now you have the line of how many calories you need to be eating, okay? All right, cool. Then, number 8, you must be consistent with your nutrition program, okay? You must be consistent with your weight training program, okay? If you are not consistent with your nutrition and weight training program, then all this stuff does not matter, okay? You have to be consistent with it, okay? I have found that I can spend 4 hours creating a plan, creating a recomp plan, creating a lean body mass plan, creating whatever kind of crazy macro split or what your body wants to look like, and do all these calculations. I can spend hours and hours and hours creating this, only for people to not follow it, to not be consistent with their training, to not be consistent with their food. Okay. So most of my clients, if you're one of my clients and you're watching this right now, most of my clients, we have to focus first on learning how to be consistent. If you are not consistent, I don't care what science we throw out there, none of it's going to work. Okay. You have to get consistent. Okay. So focus on consistency. If you're not there, then maybe you should focus on consistency before you start trying to get all crazy with these numbers. Okay. All right, cool. So you must be consistent. Okay. Now, here's another really nerdy number that you should know. And you may not know this, but you'll eventually have to learn it. Okay. You need to know the most amount of cardio that you can do in order to maintain muscle. Okay. Most of y'all have spent all of this time doing cardio for fat loss. Okay. So you may know how many minutes of cardio or how much time of cardio or how many calories you need to burn per cardio session in order to lose fat. But do you know how much cardio you actually need to do in order to maintain your muscle? Okay, if you don't know that, that's one of the elements and one of the factors that you have to know before you create one of these plans. Okay, and then I have a few do nots. Okay, you cannot skip meals. Okay, you cannot do that. The moment you start skipping meals, you're no longer in the lean bulk because you're eating in the caloric deficit, and now you're focused on losing body fat. Okay, so you cannot skip meals. You got to eat exactly to whatever you set your calories at. Okay, the next one is you cannot skip workout sessions. Okay, you can't. Oh, I'm not motivated today. That cannot exist. Okay, yeah, I bleeped myself out. That stuff cannot exist at all. You cannot be inconsistent with your weight training. You cannot be, work out or not work out based on how you feel or based on your motivation levels or any of that. You got to go do it no matter what. Okay, so those are the 12 things that you must know and you must have in place before creating it. Okay, so let's recap. Okay, in order to build muscle, you need to be in a caloric surplus. Okay. You must eat enough protein to encourage muscle growth. You must know your weight, your body fat, your lean body mass, your fat mass, your total daily energy expenditure. Okay. You must be consistent with your nutrition plan. You must be consistent with your weight training plan. You need to know what is the most amount of cardio that you can do in order to maintain muscle. Okay. You cannot skip meals and you cannot skip workout sessions. Okay. Now that you have all 12 of those in place and you're rocking and rolling, now we can actually go into creating a lean bulk program. All right. So I'm going to stop here, guys, and I'm going to ask you guys some questions. What questions do you have? I know we are getting technical and I know we are getting complex, but I'm going to tell you right now, this is not an easy goal. The hardest goal in fitness, okay, or whether it's losing body fat or gaining muscle, the absolute hardest goal is to gain muscle. Okay. Losing fat, easy. Okay. If you've already lost fat, you know exactly what I'm talking about because you are focused on building muscle and you know that that takes forever. Okay. So the long game is really where you are going to build muscle. So let's go ahead and start creating the lean bulk program. Okay. So first, let's just talk about the goal. What is the goal? Okay. Number one, we want the goal for our lean body mass to go up on a monthly basis. Okay. Again, the way that you are going to know if you are gaining muscle is you've got to know all those things that we talked about earlier. Okay. And your body fat, your lean body mass, and your fat mass are all things that we said you needed. Okay. So the goal needs to be that your lean body mass is going up and that your fat mass is staying about the same, but it's okay to go up a little bit. Okay. So a basic lean body mass to fat ratio, okay, that means that for every pound of muscle that you gain, it's okay to gain this many pounds of fat, okay? A good ratio is for every 2 pounds of muscle that you gain, you can gain 1 pound of fat, okay? That means if you gain 10 pounds of muscle, you can gain about 5 pounds of fat and still be okay, okay? That is relatively okay. Okay. Now, of course, it's better if you can have a 10-to-1 ratio for every 10 pounds of muscle, you gain 1 pound of fat. That would be ideal. Okay. That's really hard to do. It takes a really long time when you're kind of eating in your caloric surplus. Okay. So let's first understand the goal. If we understand the goal and what we're trying to do on a monthly basis, now it's much easier to start to create the plan. Okay. So know your starting point, know your fat mass, your lean body mass, all of that. Know the goal, right? Now we want the goal to be up in lean body mass, down in fat mass, okay? And we understand what a ratio is good, okay? Now let's go into actually creating the plan, okay? So phase one, I call it the assessment phase, okay? When you set up your nutrition plan, set it up exactly at your total daily energy expenditure. Exactly at your total daily energy expenditure. I know I said earlier that you need to eat in a caloric surplus, okay? But for a lean bulk, the first phase, the assessment phase, super important. Set it up right at your maintenance calories, okay? Don't miss weight training sessions. Set up your cardio to maintain your muscle, okay? And eat clean foods. Cannot stress that enough, okay? Don't go off and do a dirty bulk stuff where you're eating burgers and fries, okay? Eat clean foods. So set up your plan at maintenance level. Eat clean food. Make sure you don't miss weight training sessions, okay? Set up your cardio. And most of all, be consistent with doing that day in and day out, okay? Now, once you've done that for a month, now you go back and you reassess, okay? Now you go back and you do your body fat, you calculate your lean body mass, you calculate your fat mass, okay? And there's some other calculations that you can do, but we'll just say those right now, okay? And then you say, okay, based on 1 month of being consistent, okay, this is what's happened to my body. Okay, my body has done this. It's, you know, my muscle's gone up, my fat has gone down, whatever it is. Okay, understand what's happening, then you change it. Okay, now I will tell you this. Then you go into phase 2, and phase 2 is really an ongoing, never-ending fine-tuning process. Okay, in fact, I will tell you, more of the power is not where you start. The power is how you adjust it on a monthly basis. In fact, the entire reason I have been so successful in this industry is not because my ability to create a meal plan. Okay. In fact, if everyone right now wanted to create a customized meal plan with macros and all that stuff, it literally takes you 2 minutes to do it online. Okay. I am not charging you. When you come hire me, I am not charging you to do that. Okay, because any monkey can do it. Okay, and I mean it. You can literally train a monkey to go to this website, put in your numbers, and calculate your macros. Okay, it's not that hard. The power, the reason why I have been so successful is in my ability to know what to change and what to modify and how to change. Okay, so phase 2, the fine tuning, okay, that is all about you just looking at your numbers, assessing your numbers. Okay, my body fat did this, so this is how I have to adjust it. My lean body mass did this, so this is how I have to adjust it. Okay, then you run that for another month. Then you see what happens. Okay, based on what happens in a month, you go back to that fine tuning process. Okay, my lean body mass did this, my fat mass did this. Based on that, this is how I'm going to adjust the meal plan. Okay, and you just continue to do that over and over and over and over again until you reach your goals. Okay, now I will tell you, people do not talk about enough about the fine-tuning process. That everybody wants to talk about the setup. Okay, now the setup is important. Okay, but it's really how you fine tune it and how you adjust it on a monthly basis that where the real power is and where the real results lie. Okay, so if you don't feel like you have the knowledge to be able to do that, if you don't feel like, man, I don't even know where to start with that. Okay, reach out to me or hire a coach. Okay, hire me, because obviously I know what I'm doing. Like, but you're going to need help in that if you literally do not know how to do it, don't feel confident in doing it. I mean, you can learn it on your own, okay? But just know that we're always here as coaches if you ever need help with that, okay? All right, so you just go through the fine-tuning process over and over and over and over again until you reach your goals, okay? Now, here is the bonus that I told you I was going to talk about. The bonus is how to change depending on what's happening to your body monthly, okay? So if you don't get anything out of this session, get this out of the session, okay? I'm going to teach you my secret sauce, okay, on how to adjust, okay? So first, I'm going to go through 5 scenarios, okay? And there's a lot more scenarios, but I'm going to go through 5 basic scenarios. If this happens to your body, then this is how you need to change it, okay? All right, cool. So if your muscle goes up and your fat stays the same, just keep going with the same plan. Okay. In fact, keep going with the same plan until you plateau. Okay. Until you stop making changes. Everybody always fears the plateau. Ooh, I don't want to plateau. So the plateau is not bad. Okay. I'll say this 100 times. Plateauing is not a bad thing. It's staying plateaued. That's the bad thing. Okay. So always remember that. So in theory, if you're trying to do this for a lifestyle, it is actually better to make less changes. Okay. So the less changes that you can make, the more of a lifestyle it's going to become. Okay. So if your muscle goes up and your fat stays the same, just keep going with the same plan. Okay. No need to change it, and do that until you plateau, and then you can figure out what you need to do. Okay. All right. That's scenario number one. Scenario number two, if your fat goes down, I don't care what your muscle does. If your fat goes down, then that's telling me that you're in a caloric surplus. You're in a caloric deficit. If your fat is going down, you're most likely in a caloric deficit. I'm going to look at two things. I'm going to look at what you're eating, and I'm going to look at how much cardio you're doing. Okay. Because again, you might still be trying to do fat loss cardio. Okay. If your fat goes down, okay, then raise your calories. The overall goal is to keep our fat about the same as where we started and let our lean body mass go up. So if our fat's going down, then obviously we're not eating enough. So if we ate more, it would keep our fat about the same, and we could get more muscle gain out of it. Okay. So that's scenario number two. Scenario number three, if your muscle goes down, if you do your measurements and your muscle goes down, then you need to increase your caloric intake. Okay. Pretty simple. Okay. Scenario number four, if your fat increase is higher than your is higher than your muscle increase. Okay. So if your fat increase is higher than your muscle increase, then you probably need to decrease your caloric intake. Okay. That's scenario number four. And scenario number five, if fat and muscle increase at the same rate. Okay. So 1 pound of muscle, 1 pound of fat, 1 pound of muscle, 1 pound of fat. Okay. Then slightly decrease your caloric intake. Okay, so those are your 5 scenarios. Guys, that's going to wrap up today's session. Thanks so much for joining. And if you have any questions or if you want coaching, just go to ifmcoaching.online. We'll see you next time. See you later, guys.